What's going on, everyone? I'm Brandon, and this is the 90-Day Earth Bag Challenge. Securing water and soil on a landscape can be one of the toughest battles that we face. But we're slowly adding more earthworks and rainwater harvesting structures to help capture that water and that sediment to turn into rich soil. And it was with last week's episode that I was able to showcase, just my opinion at least, on what my favorite earthwork is, which is the Zuni bowl, in capturing, harvesting water, as well as sediment, and just creating a more resilient structure altogether. But it's the principle with permaculture where But it's with the principles in permaculture that utilizing the materials in our landscape is going to be the most effective use of our time. And that's where we're coming to our Earth Bag Challenge here to show how we're using the materials that are on this landscape in order to build a structure for basically a root cellar or holding materials for the future gardening that's going to be taking place here. Starting this structure from scratch and from the bottom up has definitely taken its time and a whole lot of physical labor for sure. But it's with all beginnings that are difficult that once we actually get the ball rolling, things start to become a little bit easier, as well as just the rhythm of the work becomes a little bit more harmonious. So we can really go back and see from the very beginning how I had started staking everything out and drawing my circles to get an idea of the outline of this dome, or these double domes. And it was also figuring out the best location on the property to stay out of a flood zone area, but also a good spot that's not just directly next to the road or necessarily out in the open per se. So as with getting everything oriented and getting the outline of the two circles drawn out, that's where I just hit the ground running basically. And a whole lot of my time had been spent basically digging out the first dome. So this is how the project or the challenge is going to essentially go. We're just going to be observing this first dome. So we want to see and have the example of what one 7-foot radius dome timeline is going to look like. And with the viewpoint of one person working on this, maybe with another job, or if they are dedicated to this full time. But as we're using the natural materials in our landscape and understanding the landscape as well can give us a little bit more of an advantage so that we're not having to run around all over the place looking for materials and also maybe, running around trying to look for the money to buy all these things too. So things have been kept really simple in that we have just some sandbags that are actually built for building dome structures and such. These actually have a really good UV resistance, and we're looking at in between, I think, 8 to 10 months of exposure that they can handle. And that's a little bit of the benefit coming into wintertime here. The sun is getting less intense, it's lower in the sky, so we're not having as much exposure on all these bags. But not to mention, we're slowly doing layer by layer, so everything is getting covered up each time basically. And then we're also back burying the sides and encasing everything as we're building up. But that's where digging took the most amount of time to dig out this pit in the first dome, get everything piled up, and actually get the gravel bags laid down for the initial foundation. So the gravel bags will just make it so we don't get the capillary effect from the ground, any wicking effect or anything into the sandbags themselves. And that's where I had used a laser level to get everything sighted out and made sure that the whole platform itself is level just for a starting base. And like I said, this is really the beginning, so it's kind of the most difficult and chaotic with organizing and getting in the groove of everything. So getting that first layer of gravel bags down, that was kind of where I left off on everything, and then also getting the hallway door buck set in. And coincidentally, that's when a lot of these storms had started over the last month and a half. Super dark. Looks like we've got some rain coming. It's spreading out. Sometimes we get days like this where we got to cut out early because we got a storm coming. So we're going to rush back home and maybe we'll get some rain and see if we get some flow going. Which I had gotten film footage of that everybody can watch and also go back and look. But a lot of those storms took my time away because I wanted to film all those and all the earthworks and see the changes and transformations that are happening. But also at the same time, I'm not going to be outside doing work all in the rain and stuff like that. That just doesn't make any sense. So that's where a lot of the stall out has come from. Now we can actually jump back to all my old clips and show you all of the work that's been done in the meantime, since everybody's been too busy watching all the rain fall and seeing all these puddles fill up. So I've got the sifter set up, and then actually I kind of messed up because I piled up a bunch of the dirt from digging out the inside in this area, and I actually need to dig this area out for a future cistern, but then also for gray water piping. We need to make room on this back area kind of in between the circles. So it's a good thing anyway, because I'll be able to dig this area out, but then at the same time we'll be able to sift for the material to fill all of the sandbags to get started, and then I'll also be digging down to get material as well. Since I got that area cleared out back there, we've got a good amount of dirt sifted. So now we'll actually just need to mix that with some water, which I actually did bring some water. And I've got barbed wire ready. So we need to cut out the barbed wire, get all that laid out and kind of sewn in into all these bags. But first I need to tamp everything down and level it. I'd forgotten to mention that I only got partway with the sandbags, so I had to start marking out the next little interior room and start using all of that material. All right, so this is where things are gonna get really repetitive. I'm gonna keep doing layer by layer, and to just get everybody up to speed on where I'm currently at, I'm on the 4th row of sandbags, and we're actually on day 21. We're only 3 weeks into this challenge. But like I said, everything's gonna get pretty repetitive. Barbed wire, sandbags, and we're gonna do more sifting. But I've got this huge pile of waste material from all the sifting, so we're actually gonna start doing.
For 90 days the clock doth run on this high desert land. We'll build a dome beneath the sun with our own 2 working hands. The shovel